You know, Rotary has so many great programs, and I first learned about Rotary when we were having dinner at the friend's home of some of my parents, and they had a Brazilian exchange student staying with them. And I'd never heard of such a concept. Here was this teenager living halfway around the world with a family he'd never met. He was going to school here, and the adventures that he'd been on, plus the things that were still in store for him during his year, really had me intrigued. I remember on the car ride home, I said to my parents that I wanted to be an exchange student too, one day. But by the time high school rolled around, that dream seemed very distant for me. I had developed multiple eating disorders, and I was quite sick. I was suffering with both anorexia and bulimia. My body was literally eating itself, which is what happens often with those disorders. My brain wasn't functioning properly, and I was bleeding internally. So, quite frankly, I was just a mess. And I was scared, and my parents were very scared. Luckily, with their help, love, and support, and getting me the professional help that I needed, I was able to live with the tug of war that eating disorders often have and slowly make some inroads into getting better. Yet somehow, during my 10th grade year, I still recalled that dream of wanting to be an exchange student, and I applied. And between the two high schools, I was actually selected for the one Rotary Exchange opportunity to go overseas. Is there anyone from the Lake Oswego Rotary Club in the house today? Thank you, Lake Oswego. That year changed my life in more ways than I can count, and it still impacts me to this day. Well, what really happened that year is you saved my life. Because one of the things that the Youth Exchange program kept emphasizing over and over and over is that as a young teenager, I was an ambassador, not just for Rotary, not just for the Lake Oswego Rotary Club, but for America. And that awakening allowed me to start to look at the struggles I was having quite differently. Here was a country where there were lots of people starving because they didn't have access to food and water on a regular basis. They didn't have access to education. And while I went to school that year, and while I worked with Rotarians and other exchange students on projects, it helped me start to break free of my eating disorder and appreciate the abundance that I had. And that's when I really turned a corner and started to get a handle on the self-destruction that I was going through. And that's all because of the Rotary Youth Exchange program.